Blockchain goes mainstream, according to EU officials. Ledger wallet users have difficulty accessing their Bitcoin cash funds. Ripple invests $25 million into Blockchain Capital's VC fund. The Rockefellers go long on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency with early-stage venture investments. 22 countries sign on to a European blockchain partnership declaration. Monero integrates with Ledger. Bittrex Exchange opens to a lackluster reception. And Bitcoin remains enticing for retail investors despite price fluctuations. The market's up ever so slightly. We've got all your headlines mixed with some daily market analysis. I'm Elio Trades, and your FUD TV daily update starts now. That's right, diving in here on the total market capitalizations, we can see that Bitcoin is slightly up on the day, about 1% or 0.8% up. We have Ethereum with a 3% gain, not too much in the top 10, except for, of course, EOS with a monstrous pump, and we'll go into that in just a second. We have a bunch of coins here in the green, but it's not a huge gaining day overall, as the market has grown by a few $billion, but not a ton. Of course, we haven't lost ground, and that's always a good sign. We're here, it's Wednesday. Usually the market tends to grow for the first half of the week and sort of retreat for the second half of the week, though that's not a hard and fast rule. Of course, we do see a ton. Look at this line out of EOS. Look at every other week chart. Look at every other week chart here. They look kind of similar, right? Look, the top 4 week charts look bumpy, then up, then down, then up, and then you see there's the same peak, and then there's the same fall off. Whereas none of that applies here to this EOS week chart. It's not rising when it's rising. It's actually rising as the others are falling. And then as the others are going up, it's totally stagnant. And then as these are totally stagnant, it's pumping through the roof. But as you can see, EOS is definitely taking its own shape. It's got its own rhythm going, and so we're gonna look into that. If we go into the biggest gainers and losers in the top 100, we see it's no question that EOS is taking the cake here. After that, it's shortly followed by Mixin. Its volatility is through the roof, and we'll definitely be letting that settle down a little bit before we at all try to size up our own positions. Redcoin making a nice little return here to relevance. We have Dogecoin and Walton Chain. Obviously, Walton Chain coming into the frame. We're expecting a lot of movement out of our logistics supply chain cryptos over the next week or two. I don't know if you guys heard the prediction from the Coca-Cola kid, but you guys need to be following that guy. For some reason, if he is a guy or if it is some kind of omnipotent being, whatever it is, this person on Twitter, Coca-Cola Kid, has made some pretty hefty predictions. It seems like that person is very much so an insider in the cryptocurrency industry, specifically within VChain. It looks like they are part of VChain. So if you don't know about the Coca-Cola Kid, he always likes to deliver his information in this cryptic sort of soliloquy poem form. And here he says, and you have to be very careful because every little detail of these messages, communications count. Hey, my cinnamon leaf moisturizing lollipops. Cinnamon, not cinnamon. Listen up, April is here, do you see? And he names a bunch of coins, or they name a bunch of coins: VChain, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Walton Chain, IOTA, Neo, Icon, and EOS. Visitor, have you seen the signals? From the ashes a burning phoenix rises, bringing light where there is darkness, meaning where there is none. The old scrolls have been written in hazed ink, and the remaining disciples and unbelievers will soon be consumed by 1,000 suns. The rebirth is here. Anyway, there's a bunch of cryptic stuff here that hopefully over time will unwind all of it, but in the end, they are sending messages here, and this is known to be someone who has predicted many big partnership announcements before they've come out. So if they're predicting a phoenix rising from the ashes, a return from the darkness of all of these coins, hopefully that's what we're reading here, and hopefully this is a little bit of dark magic voodoo that's gonna work for the benefit of the crypto population over the next few weeks. Getting back into our chart analysis, we can see that EOS is pumping almost 30%, and of course we need to explain that somehow, but there's not exactly one reason in this case. Honestly, EOS has been pretty undervalued for some time, pretty oversold, and that's one explanation, but a better explanation might be that it has a new listing on OneUpCoin, but an even better explanation is probably that it has support now for these airdrops that are upcoming, and there's been a bunch of exchanges, OKX, BitHum, Upbit, that have all announced that they are going to be supporting this airdrop, which is another reason for this. Obviously, they've been pretty well valued in comparison to Ethereum, and a lot of the reason that people think that might be the case is because EOS accepted a lot of Ethereum during their ICO, and they are currently dumping it to devalue the Ethereum price, as is widely believed to be the case. And of course, there's a bunch of players getting into the supernode game. And of course, the more supernodes there are, the more coins that are being sort of locked up and held. It reduces the sort of de facto circulating supply, and of course, helps increase the value of the coin. So there's a lot of reasons that could be explaining this pump, but in general, EOS just has a lot of things going for it. So maybe there are some whales trying to pump this, but really this pump is so big that it seems like EOS is just kind of catching a seam. And again, we're seeing some coins really start to take off. This is really starting to look like the alts might get really bullish. Hopping over to our lead news out of the day, we have word that blockchain is going mainstream, and this is from the words of an EU financial official. A European Commission vice president has called on EU nations to commit to blockchain technology, which he says is moving out of the lab and going mainstream. EC Vice President Andrus Ansip said, "I would like to see the EU countries make a similar commitment, as with AI, to blockchain technologies, now moving out of the lab and going mainstream. As with AI, we should make the most out of this new opportunity to innovate." The EC concluded that it will invest 300 million euros into projects that are directly related to the use of blockchain technology. The Commission also revealed that it's laying the groundwork required to establish a European blockchain partnership in order to promote interoperable infrastructures, presumably between EU nations, to enhance and foster trusted digital services. Of course, this is another story about how blockchain is being respected, and not only respected, but encouraged and fast-tracked by the powers that be, really globally. Whenever you hear stories about crypto being dead or Bitcoin being dead, and yet you hear also stories about how all of the biggest governments in the world are collaborating to create the next generation of this technology and funding it with hundreds of millions of dollars. Well, the reality is that blockchain is far from dead. It's just being born. This is just the beginning, guys. We also got word that Ledger was causing some trouble for Bitcoin Cash users. They transferred all of their Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin from Coinbase to the Nano S, and it all went fine except for the Bitcoin Cash transfer that still reflected a zero balance on the Ledger wallet. Apparently, it had been over 36 hours at the time of posting. Turns out that this was actually indicative of a larger problem, as Ledger tweeted shortly afterwards that they're working on bringing back their Bitcoin Cash infrastructure and that they can get real-time updates at this link. Of course, that's not too encouraging, and we'd all like to know that at least the funds are safe. So we'll definitely keep you updated, as this is a very pressing story. Anything that has to do with hardware wallets or security of cryptocurrency storage is in fact a pressing topic at all times. According to Ledger's CTO, Nicholas Baca, the team is still investigating. He says he's not following it closely, but if valid data was fed into our parser, it could be necessary to reparse the whole chain, which will take a few days. Thanks for your patience. Our main servers are now synced and running. We'll run on a degraded infrastructure for the time being to ensure that everything is running fine for the next 12 hours. Once we're sure that everything is running smoothly, we'll apply our patches to the Ledger Blockchain Explorer and the BCH daemon before we sync the rest of our infrastructure. Well, it seems like the issue is being fixed, and hopefully all the funds are indeed safe, but of course we'll keep you updated as any more updates come out of the story. And Ripple is making waves in the VC investment community, as they are pledging $25 million to early-stage startups in the cryptocurrency space. That's right, Ripple is participating in Blockchain Capital's Parallel 4 LP fund, part of the latter's fourth venture round, which only accepts contributions in cryptocurrencies. They said, quote, "We created the Parallel Fund to separate from other LPs from the risk of any change in valuation associated with accepting Ripple investment in XRP." So essentially, this at $25 million was donated in XRP from the sort of Ripple reserves, and the whole goal here is to encourage innovation in the space. This fund is described by Ripple as, quote, "the first fund to accept capital calls in digital assets." And that's pretty huge, because when you allow for companies to essentially invest the tokens that they have the most of, right? Their tokens they have the most supply of. That's their currency that they control. If you ask them to invest the cash or other different cryptos that aren't native to their platform, they have a lot less of it. So if you allow these companies to invest their native tokens, you essentially open up the floodgates for a whole new sea of money to come in that is already existing within the crypto space. So this is a huge, huge piece of news, and it could mean that a lot more VC capital is made available through digital assets. Blockchain Capital added, "Whether it's using XRP, Bitcoin, or just the underlying blockchain technology, our goal is to find the best projects, to give them the resources to be successful companies that deliver value to the customers in the long term." This is awesome, yet more good news, and showing how the sort of infrastructure around launching new projects in the ICO space and the cryptocurrency space is really just taking shape. This is very bullish for long-term cryptocurrency investors. And in very similar news, the Rockefellers have just announced their very own foray into VC capital for the cryptocurrency space. And quite interestingly, they don't actually want to make any short-term profits. I know with a lot of different people, I'd sort of thought of the Rockefellers as sort of stock market or sort of investors that sort of put money into different commodities or assets. But it seems like their goal here is to actually create a sort of VC environment where they don't necessarily even care about the short-term gains or how any project does in the next sort of month or year. They want to invest in the next unicorns and really cultivate the next wave of blockchain technologies. I think this is amazing. And if you can see people like Rockefeller going this long on blockchain, well, it means things are really looking good if you're a long-term blockchain or cryptocurrency investor or enthusiast in the space. 22 countries have signed a declaration for European blockchain participation. The European Commission's EC's Digital Day 2018 has led to the signing of a declaration to create a blockchain partnership made up of 22 countries, according to April 10th European Commission press release. The release said, quote, "In the future, all public services will use blockchain technology. Blockchain is a great opportunity for Europe and members of the states to rethink their information systems to promote user trust and the protection of personal data, to help create new business opportunities and establish new areas of leadership benefiting citizens, public services, and companies." Obviously, we don't need to dig in too much more into this. This is a continuation on all of the good news, regulatory and sort of international news, investment news. This is just showing that the powers that be, if you will, of the old system are making themselves very much so at home and excited about the new system that is blockchain. And Monero finally finds its home on the Ledger Nano S. That's right, if you've been holding Monero and you've been wanting desperately to store it on your Ledger Nano, you will very soon be able to do so, as Monero is looking to make a full integration with the Nano S. Obviously, this hasn't happened just yet, but the upcoming release should support Monero, and so we'll keep you up to date and make you aware when that happens. Very good sign for Monero holders. Obviously, if you have been holding Monero and you've had to hold it on sort of a hot wallet or a sort of online or desktop wallet, you can fear not anymore, because you can transfer it to the gold standard of cold storage, or hardware storage rather. And in surprising news, retail investors are not running away from the Bitcoin investment opportunities despite price fluctuations. Throughout its storied history, Bitcoin has crashed many times, and the recent decline from 19,000 to 6,000 was the third worst correction to date, recording a 72% drop in value. Of course, there were altcoins and different cryptocurrencies that suffered way worse than that. However, history is a great teacher, and history recalls that each and every one of these crashes was met with bullishness and a full recovery. This week, however, Jeremy Gardner, a co-founder of the successful blockchain project Augur, revealed that investors in the over-the-counter markets are seeking multi-billion-dollar bids to invest in the most dominant cryptocurrencies in the market. In OTC markets, investors often deal with miners or other whale investors that hold significant chunks of Bitcoin. Multi-billion-dollar bids would not have an immediate impact on the public market or the cryptocurrency exchange market, but if investors start allocating billions of new dollars into the cryptocurrency market, the Bitcoin price will likely increase in the midterm. OTC markets' demand for Bitcoin is now unlike anything I've ever witnessed, said Gardner. Several asked for multi-million-dollar bids. So what does this all mean? This means that despite the decline in price for Bitcoin, we're seeing that large investors, large retail investors, are deciding that this is a great time, signaling their entry into the blockchain space, into the cryptocurrency space. What this means, what this could mean, is that this big entry of institutional and sort of older, sort of more established money into the cryptocurrency space that a lot of people have been expecting in early 2018 might start happening. Through this over-the-counter investment world, you'll start to see more players be able to easily enter in multi-million or multi-billion-dollar bids into the market without it necessarily crashing or overly pumping the market. So it's very interesting, and obviously the maturity on this side of cryptocurrency will lead to the kind of bull runs that will get the John McAfee bet so that he doesn't eat his own, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, the point is that the market will rise, and things like this, OTC investors and allowing for their participation and tracking their interest, those are the real signifiers of long-term bull runs. And Bittrex Exchange has reopened to a lackluster reception. Interestingly, despite people claiming that cryptocurrency is dead or interest is waning, Bittrex had to shut down new user registration in the last 24 hours, and they're promising that they'll return it, quote, as soon as possible. Beyond being a little bit disappointing and obviously shutting down the new user registration, their UI left a lot to be desired, with not being obvious where the buy price, the bid price, or the last 24-hour highs were. This is very, very negative, as exchanges are very much so. These are common things that you expect on exchanges. And it sort of feels like with exchanges like Binance really taking the lead and showing us what the best cryptocurrency exchanges look like, you'd think the rest of the world would follow suit and just be able to figure out these are the features that people need. It's not crazy here. This isn't rocket science. You just need to put in the features that Binance has and everything will be great. Thanks so much for checking out our daily FUD TV update. If you enjoyed it, don't be afraid to smash that like button or comment below and let us know what you thought of our review today. Of course, if you're an investor or enthusiast in the space, we encourage you to subscribe to this channel, as we do cryptocurrency videos each and every day on this channel. I'm Elio Trades. It's been an absolute pleasure having you with me today on FUD TV, and we'll catch you very soon on the next episode.